You really think a black ex-con like you deserves to be her father?
The sentence wouldn't stop echoing in Marcus Cole's head. It hummed in his skull as he staggered down the rain-slick sidewalk, cradling the bleeding woman in his arms. Red spread across her shirt, warm and sticky against his hands. Her badge, still clipped to her belt, knocked against his forearm with every step. Somewhere behind them, sirens wailed closer, blue and red lights bouncing off the wet brick of Harbor City's old waterfront district. The yellow backpack lay in the gutter a few yards back, soaked through, one strap torn. The little metal star keychain hanging from the zipper spun crazily in the wind, catching stray slivers of streetlight. "Don't let them take her," the woman rasped, fingers clawing weakly at his hoodie. "Don't let them get to Lily." Marcus gritted his teeth so hard his jaw ached. Lily, his little girl, his whole reason for breathing. A black single father with a record, carrying a half-dead cop in his arms while crooked police closed in. "You really think a black ex-con like you deserves to be her father?" The voice in his head laughed, cruel and familiar. To understand how Marcus ended up in that alley, with blood on his hands and a choice that could destroy everything he had left, you'd have to go back a few weeks. Back to the garage. Back to the yellow backpack while it was still dry and bright. Back to the life he was barely holding together. The Cole Auto and Body Shop used to be a storage unit. Whoever owned it before him had just used it to hide rusted tools and broken dreams. Now it was Marcus's whole world. A dented roll-up door, a battered sign that flickered when it rained, and enough square footage to fit 2 cars and one small, fragile life. Lily sat cross-legged on the oil-stained concrete, her yellow backpack in her lap like armor. She was 6, tiny for her age, with dark curls escaping the messy ponytail Marcus had tried and failed to tame that morning. Crayons were scattered around her like a little halo of color, and she was drawing directly on the wall beside the tool cabinet. "You know that's technically vandalism," Marcus said, bent over the engine of an old sedan, voice teasing but soft. "Who's technically?" Lily asked without looking up. Marcus chuckled. "Guy who sends grown folks to jail for drawing on walls." She sniffed. "Then he better not come over here, 'cause this is our house." He paused, letting that sink in. It wasn't a house. It was a shop with a mattress in the back room and a hot plate that pretended to be a stove. But to Lily, it was our house, and Marcus would set the whole damn city on fire before he let anyone take that from her. A rattle of breath echoed from her chest. Marcus froze, turning just in time to see Lily's shoulders hitch. "Hey," he said quickly, wiping his hands on a rag and crossing the floor in 3 long strides. "Breathe, baby. Where's your inhaler?" She tapped the front pocket of her backpack with trembling fingers. He fished out the blue inhaler, guided it to her mouth, watching her big brown eyes squeeze shut as she took 2 careful puffs. The wheezing eased. Marcus exhaled with her, like he'd been the one choking. "You good?" he asked. Lily nodded, eyes glassy but brave. "Can I finish the mommy picture?" There it was. The drawing on the wall was a crooked little house with a red door, a stick figure man with brown skin and big arms, him, a tiny girl with wild hair, Lily. And next to them, a tall stick woman with a yellow dress and a circle of bright lines around her head, like a sun. "Sure," Marcus said quietly. "You can finish." He kissed the top of her head, the smell of crayon wax and dust mixing with motor oil and rain seeping in under the shop door. The first time someone told him he didn't deserve to be her father, it had been in that same building. Different day, different uniform, same look. He could still see the paramedic's face from the night his wife died. The way she'd glanced at his skin, at his tattoos, at the needle on the floor next to his wife's twitching hand. Though the drugs hadn't been his. The way the cop standing behind the paramedic had muttered under his breath, just loud enough. You really think a black ex-con like you deserves custody after this? Marcus had almost hit him. Almost. But Lily had been in the next room, crying so hard she could barely breathe. The social worker came to check on the child, to decide if he was fit to keep her. He kept her. But the sentence stuck like a splinter. Now, every time a squad car crawled past the garage a little too slow, Marcus's shoulders tensed, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when the woman in the plain blazer with the badge on her belt walked into his shop that Tuesday afternoon, he was already halfway to angry. "Marcus Cole?" she asked. The way she said his name told him she'd practiced it. Calm. Even. Like she knew any hint of judgment might make him kick her right back out. He straightened up from under the hood, wiping his hands on his rag again. She was mid-30s, maybe, with light brown hair pulled into a no-nonsense ponytail, rain dots still clinging to the shoulders of her jacket. Her eyes were sharp, tired, the kind of tired you got from staring at ugly things too long. "The sign says auto repair, not life coach," he said. "You need brakes or a tune-up?" "I'm Detective Claire Adams," she said, flashing the badge. "Harbor City Police Department, Child Protection and Trafficking Unit." The words hit like cold water. "I don't got kids here," he said too fast, even as his gaze flicked to the corner where Lily sat, her backpack half open, crayons spread. Claire's eyes followed his. Lily froze, crayon mid-stroke. She did that thing adults do when they realize a kid is listening. Her voice turned softer, more careful. "I'm not here about her," she said. "Or about you." Lily's shoulders relaxed a little. Marcus's didn't. "Then what do you want, detective?" Claire glanced around the shop. The cracked concrete, the single overhead light flickering, the drawing on the wall. She took it all in with a quick sweep, cataloging without making it obvious. "There's been a pattern of kids going missing around Lennox Point," she said. "Some of them were last seen near these warehouses. I'm talking to business owners in the area, seeing if anyone's noticed anything. Strange cars, strange people, men hanging around where they don't belong." Marcus huffed. "Around here, that's everybody." Her lips twitched, like she almost smiled. Almost. "I still have to ask," she said. He shrugged. "Fine. Ask." She did. Patient, steady questions. Same rhythm he remembered from 100 interrogations, but without the edge, without the assumption of guilt. Still, he gave her nothing. No, he hadn't seen any vans that didn't belong. No, nobody new had been hanging around his block. No, he didn't know anything about kids going missing. But the whole time, he watched Lily, and the whole time, Claire did too. "What's your name?" she asked Lily at last. The little girl ducked her head, curls hiding her face. "Lily," Marcus answered for her. "And she's not part of your investigation." Claire nodded, slow. "Got it. My mistake." There was a faint tightness in her jaw, like she was chewing back a dozen other questions. About his record. About the meth bust 10 years ago down on Pier 7. About the night his wife died. She didn't ask them. Instead, she reached into her pocket, pulled out a small sticker, a glittery yellow star. She held it out to Lily. "I like your backpack," Claire said. "It matches." Lily peeked up, eyes flickering to the backpack in her lap. Bright yellow, edges scuffed, a metal star keychain hanging from the zipper, chipped and scratched but still shiny. She took the sticker without speaking and stuck it carefully next to the little metal star. "Thanks," she whispered. "You're welcome," Claire said. "If you ever see anything weird out there, any grown-ups asking you to go somewhere without your dad, you yell as loud as you can, okay? You run. You find a shop like this and you stay inside." Marcus bristled. "She's not going anywhere without me." Claire's gaze met his. For a fraction of a second, Marcus saw something besides official distance in her eyes. He saw worry. guilt, and tucked under that, a quiet anger that had nothing to do with him. "Good," she said. "Keep it that way." She left a card on the workbench as she walked out, rain gusting in behind her. "If you remember anything," she said over her shoulder, "call me, day or night." The door rattled shut. The garage felt smaller. Marcus picked up the card like it might bite him. Detective Claire Adams, Harbor City PD, a number. He crumpled it in his fist, thought about throwing it in the trash. Instead, he shoved it deep into his back pocket. Just in case. Claire's office didn't look like the rest of the precinct. The fluorescent lights overhead still buzzed. The coffee in the break room was still terrible. The walls were still painted the same institutional gray, but every inch of her space was covered in kids. Not real kids. Not anymore. Photos, flyers, school portraits with smiles that didn't know what was coming. Maps of Harbor City with red pins speared into neighborhoods most officers avoided unless they were in a squad car with the windows up. On her whiteboard, the words "Child Trafficking Ring" circled a shaded area that included Lenox Point, the old port, and half a dozen abandoned warehouses. Underneath, in darker marker, "Possible internal protection." There was another name written and underlined 3 times, Captain Victor Kane. Claire stared at the name until the letters blurred. She'd been stitching this pattern together for months. Kids disappearing from the same streets, reports buried, tips ignored, cases marked low priority or downgraded to possible runaways, even when everything in her gut said otherwise. Every time she followed the trail up the chain of command, it stopped at the same place. Kane, her boss's boss, the man who smiled for press conferences and shook hands with the mayor. The man who'd told her, in a low voice in the elevator one night, "Some wars you don't pick, Adams, especially not when you're this far outnumbered." She'd smiled back, then gone right back to digging. Now, a fresh case file sat on her desk. Overdose, female, early 30s, found in a tenement hallway near Lenox Point. 9 years ago. Claire flipped it open. The black and white crime scene photo showed a woman with dark skin, hair spread around her like a halo gone wrong. A young man kneeling next to her, face blurred to protect his identity. A small child's hand visible at the edge of the frame, clinging to his arm. The report underneath listed the death as accidental overdose. Possible gang involvement, no further investigation recommended, reported by Officer Victor Kane. Claire's eyes narrowed. The woman's name was Tasha Cole. Cole. She dug through her notes, fingers flying. A scrap of memory surfaced from that morning in the garage, the framed picture on the workbench behind Marcus. A younger version of him with his arms around a woman in a yellow dress, Lily, a baby in her arms. Same face. Same woman. Suddenly, the air in the office felt thin. How many lives had Kane decided weren't worth saving? How many files like this had he signed, sending entire families off a cliff? Claire stood, heart pounding, screw waiting for permission. If she was right, Marcus Cole's wife hadn't just overdosed. She'd been collateral damage in a war nobody with a badge wanted to admit was happening. And the man who'd let her die was still sitting in an office upstairs. It was after midnight when Marcus heard the knock. He almost ignored it. He'd been under the hood of a pickup since 9, finishing a job that should have taken 2 days. His back ached, grease stung his eyes, and Lily was already asleep on the mattress in the back, clutching her backpack like a teddy bear. But the knock came again, sharper. He wiped his hands, slid a wrench into the back of his waistband out of habit, and cracked the side door open. Claire stood on the steps, hair damp from the misty Harbor City drizzle, blazer gone. She wore a black hoodie now, the badge on a chain tucked beneath it. A manila folder was clutched to her chest like a lifeline. "Detective," Marcus said flatly. "Garage is closed." "This isn't about the garage," she said. "Can I come in?" He hesitated. Then that old splinter of curiosity twisted in his gut. Keep your hands where I can see them, he said. And keep your voice down. My kid's sleeping. Her gaze flicked past him, softening just a little at the sight of the small form under a thin blanket in the back room. Then she stepped inside, the door clicking closed behind her. The garage felt darker at night, the single lamp over the workbench throwing long shadows. Claire laid the folder on the bench and opened it, revealing photos, reports, signatures. Marcus saw his wife's face first, the hallway, the needle, his own blurred figure. Cold raced up his spine. "What is this?" he demanded. "It's the report from the night Tasha died," Claire said quietly. "The official version, the one nobody ever showed you." "I was there," he snapped. "I don't need a report to tell me what happened." "You know what you saw," Claire said. "You don't know what they wrote." Her finger tapped a line halfway down the page. No evidence of foul play. Victim known to associate with drug traffickers. Scene cleared without further incident. "Captain Victor Kane signed off on it," Claire said. "He was the responding officer. He decided there was nothing left to look into. No reason to chase the dealer supplying bad product on your block. No reason to check why the ambulance took 40 minutes to get there." Marcus's vision tunneled. He remembered the screams, the way he'd begged the dispatcher, his voice breaking. The way the cops had arrived and told him to calm down while his wife's eyes rolled back. "Why are you showing me this?" he asked, voice raw. "Because this isn't the only file with his name on it," Claire said. "I've been tracking a ring that's been using kids as bait, to move drugs, to lure other kids. They operate out of the same buildings Tasha died in, the same blocks. Every time one of these cases gets close to something real, it hits a wall. A wall with Kane's signature on it." Marcus's hands curled into fists. "So he's what?" he said. "Lazy? Racist? Pick your poison, detective. I've seen it all." "He's more than that," Claire said. "He's protecting them. And tonight, I crossed a line I can't uncross. I pulled old files I wasn't supposed to touch. I copied them, including this one." "You're telling me this like I'm supposed to help you," Marcus said. "Me, a black ex-con with a kid and a shop he barely keeps open." "You're the one he hurt," Claire shot back, a little edge finally cutting through. "You and Lily and every kid growing up in those buildings thinking this is just how it is. I thought you might want to know who made that call." Marcus stared at the papers, at his wife's name, at the signature at the bottom, Victor Kane. "Why would a cop like you go against your own?" he asked, voice low. She swallowed. For the first time that night, she looked almost scared. "Because somebody has to," she said. "And because if I don't do it now, there won't be anything left of me worth saving." Silence stretched between them. In the back room, Lily turned over in her sleep, mumbling something about stars. Marcus thought about the way Kane had looked at him that night, the way every officer since had looked at him, like he was one mistake away from losing his kid, like the system was doing Lily a favor by letting her stay. "You should go," he said finally. "If what you're saying is true, you don't want to be seen here. Not tonight." Claire nodded once, jaw tight. "You're probably right," she said. "I just couldn't keep this to myself." She closed the folder, tucking the copies back inside. As she turned toward the door, something bright on the workbench caught her eye. Lily's backpack. She'd left it there when she crawled into bed. Claire smiled faintly and, without thinking, picked it up. "I'll put this next to her," she said. She crossed the garage, placed the backpack gently by the mattress, tucking the strap under Lily's small hand. On her way back, as she reached for the door handle, a shadow moved outside the narrow window. Claire's instincts screamed. "Get down," she hissed. The door exploded inward. The first hit caught her across the jaw. The second slammed into her ribs. Two men in dark tactical gear, no badges showing, surged into the room, their faces hidden under caps and pulled-down masks. Marcus barely had time to register the glint of a gun before Claire tackled him sideways, shoving him behind the pickup. Gunshots cracked, deafening in the enclosed space. The overhead light shattered, plunging the garage into a strobe of muzzle flashes. "Adams!" a voice shouted. "You're under arrest for theft of confidential—" "Turn off the radio!" another voice snapped. "You want the whole city listening?" Lily woke up screaming. Her shrill cries cut through the chaos like a knife. Marcus's heart seized. "My kid!" he yelled, scrambling up. A hand grabbed the back of his hoodie, yanking him down. Claire fired twice over the hood of the truck, driving one of the men back. "Get to her!" she shouted. "I've got them!" He didn't think. He just moved. He dove toward the mattress, sliding on his knees, throwing his body over Lily's small frame as bullets ripped into the cinderblock wall behind them. Someone cursed. Claire cried out, the sound wet and choked. Then, suddenly, there were sirens again. Real ones this time. Blue and red lights flashed through the busted garage door as a patrol car turned onto the block. "Abort!" a voice shouted. "We're not doing this with witnesses!" The men retreated as fast as they'd come, disappearing into the night. Marcus lay there, chest heaving, Lily sobbing into his shirt. "Daddy, my backpack," she hiccuped. "My star." He looked up. The yellow backpack lay near the open doorway, one strap caught under the heel of a boot print, the little metal star bent. Claire was sprawled on the concrete beside it, one hand pressed to her side. Blood seeped between her fingers, dark and thick, mixing with motor oil and rain. "Don't call them," she gasped when Marcus crawled over. "They'll finish it. They'll say I attacked you." He stared at her, at the badge on her belt, at the blood, at his daughter, shaking, clutching his leg. "You need a hospital," he said. "I need someone who doesn't work for him," she whispered. "You said you know people from before." Her eyes locked on his, clear even through the pain. "Marcus, please." He heard the sirens turning onto Lennox Point, closer, louder, the same song that had played the night Tasha died. "You really think a black ex-con like you deserves to be her father?" Maybe he didn't, but he knew this much. If those sirens caught Claire in his shop, if Kane's men got to write the story, Lily's whole life would go up in flames right along with his. He scooped Claire up, grunting at her weight, ignoring her strangled groan. "Grab the backpack," he told Lily. "We're leaving." The clinic didn't look like a clinic. From the street, it was a bodega squeezed between a pawn shop and a check-cashing place. The front windows were plastered with faded ads for lotto tickets and off-brand cereal. But through the back door, down a narrow hallway that smelled like bleach and garlic, Dr. Baptiste kept a different kind of business. "What you bring me this time, Cole?" the older man muttered as Marcus shouldered the door open, carrying Claire. "Someone who needs to stay off the books," Marcus said. Baptiste took one look at the badge at her hip, the blood, the fear in Lily's eyes, and didn't ask another question. Hours later, when the bleeding was stopped and the bullet lodged in her side was lying in a metal tray, Claire blinked awake on a cot in a small room behind the shop. The first thing she saw was Lily's backpack propped on a milk crate beside the bed. The second was Marcus, slumped in a plastic chair with his head tipped back, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. Lily slept curled up on his chest, one small hand fisted in his shirt. Claire swallowed, throat raw. "How bad?" she whispered. Marcus's eyes snapped open. For a second, panic flared. Then he saw she was awake, and some of the tension drained away. "You'll live," he said. "Doctor says you got lucky. Bullet passed clean. No organs hit." "You should have taken me to a hospital," Claire muttered. "And let them write you up as a crazy cop who broke into some poor mechanic's shop?" Marcus snorted. "No thanks." She tried to sit up. Pain flared white-hot in her side. "Easy," he said. reaching out without thinking to steady her. She flinched. He pulled back, hands hovering. They stared at each other in the dim light. "I put you and your kid in danger," Claire said. "Kane must have had me under surveillance. He saw me go to records. He saw me come out." It wasn't hard to figure out where I went next. "You think I don't know that?" Marcus asked. "You brought a war to my door, detective." His voice wasn't loud. That made it worse. "But those men weren't there for me," he went on. "They were there for you. And you still threw yourself in front of that door when they came through it." He glanced down at Lily, sleeping fitfully, her little chest rising and falling in stuttered breaths. "You didn't have to do that," he said. Claire let out a humorless chuckle. "I did," she said. "I'm in the child protection unit. Kinda comes with the job." "Yeah?" Marcus asked. "Protecting kids is part of the job description? That why Kane let my wife die in a hallway?" Bitterness laced every word. Claire's gaze dropped. "No," she said. That was the part of the job where he decided some lives weren't worth the paperwork." Silence settled again, heavy as wet wool. Finally, Claire drew a shaky breath. "I sent everything I had on him to a secure drive before I went to see you," she said. "Notes, files, copies. If I disappear, my partner knows where to look. But if I'm going to take him down while I'm still breathing, I need more. I need proof only someone like you can get." "Someone like me," Marcus repeated slowly. "You mean a guy who used to run packages for the same people he's protecting?" She met his eyes. "Yes," she said simply. He leaned back, rubbing a hand over his face. Claire could see the war playing out behind his eyes. Protect his family. Or step into a fight that could blow what little they had apart. "You want me to help a cop," he said. "After everything." "I want you to help yourself," Claire said. "And Lily. And every kid who's going to end up like her if we let this keep going." He looked at his daughter. At the backpack. At her tiny hand tangled in his shirt. "I told myself I was out," he said quietly. "When Tasha died, I said that's it. No more running for anybody, no more playing lookout, no more deals. I was just gonna fix cars, keep my head down, raise my girl, and pretend the rest of this city wasn't on fire." "And how's that working out?" Claire asked softly. His eyes flashed. "This what you do?" he said. "Back people into a corner until they say yes?" "This is me telling you the truth," she replied. "They already know your name. They've already got your face in a file. You think if this goes sideways, they're gonna believe I dragged you into it? Or that you came willingly?" Marcus stared at her. "They're already planning how to paint you as the villain," she said. "You can either let them write that story, or you can write a different one." The words hung there. He let out a slow breath. "Dr. Baptiste says you can't move much for a few days," he said at last. "You'll stay here, in the room behind my shop. No phone, no badge, no noise." Her brows shot up. "That's not really up for—" He cut her off with a look. "My house," he said. "My rules. You want me to help you? You do it my way. That means we use my people on my timeline. And the second I think Lily's in danger, I walk. You understand?" She held his gaze. "Deal," she said. "Good," he replied. "Then get some sleep, detective." "Claire," she corrected, surprising herself. He hesitated. "Marcus," he said. Something small and fragile shifted in the room, like a door cracking open in a long, locked house. On the crate beside the bed, the yellow backpack's star keychain glinted faintly in the half-light. They worked in the spaces between sirens. By day, Marcus fixed cars and pretended nothing had changed. Claire stayed out of sight, listening through the thin wall as customers came and went, picking up scraps of conversation about squads rolling through certain blocks, about which warehouses were suddenly off limits, even to the degenerates who usually lived there. By night, they sat at the workbench with the folder spread between them, cross-referencing names. Marcus scribbled lists of old contacts, guys who'd owed him favors, guys who still worked down at the docks, who loaded and unloaded crates without asking too many questions. "I lost touch with most of these fools," he said, tapping a name. "But Rico still hits the bar on 9th, far as I know. He always knew whose pockets were being lined." Claire traced a finger along an address on the map. "This warehouse," she said. "They've got it listed as condemned. No utilities, no active permits, and yet there's a patrol car stationed outside 3 nights a week." "Just one?" Marcus asked. "Usually," she said. "Same unit, same officers." "Babysitting," Marcus muttered, "making sure nobody sees what's going in and out." The picture started to sharpen. Kids taken from one end of the city, funneled through Lenox Point, held in buildings Kane had declared too dangerous for inspectors, moved out of Harbor City in trucks that passed every checkpoint because they were on routes pre-approved by his office. "How many kids?" Marcus asked one night. Claire's shoulders slumped. "Too many," she said. "Maybe we can't save them all. But if we take down Kane, we shut down their shield. That gives us a shot at the rest." Lily drifted in and out of these scenes, like a small, ghostly sun the story revolved around. Sometimes she sat at the corner of the workbench, coloring diagrams she didn't understand, humming to herself, the backpack at her feet. Sometimes she crawled into Claire's room, curling up next to her on the narrow cot, listening to the murmur of voices through the wall as she fell asleep. Claire woke more than once to find a small drawing tucked under her pillow. 3 stick figures holding hands, one tall, dark one tall, light one tiny one with a yellow square on her back. "Is that supposed to be me?" she asked Marcus, holding up the picture, trying to keep her voice light. He glanced at it, lips twitching. "Looks like she upgraded me from guy who yells at officers on TV to guy who occasionally cooperates with law enforcement," he said. "That's progress." "Pretty sure she made you taller," Claire said. "Trust me, I'm tall enough when I'm standing next to CPS," he replied dryly. He meant it as a joke, but the letters hung heavy in the air. Child Protective Services, the people who could show up at his door one day with a clipboard and a court order and decide his daughter belonged with strangers. "You know they'd love to get their hands on this place," Marcus said quietly. "They see a black man with a record raising a kid above a damn garage. They don't see hard work. They see failure waiting to happen." Claire's chest ached. "I see a father doing everything he can with what he's got," she said. He shrugged. "You're a cop. You have to say that." "No," she said. "I don't." She thought of all the homes she'd been in on calls, all the glossy kitchens that smelled like wine and resentment, all the tidy living rooms with shouting parents and crying kids. If love were measured in square footage, Marcus wouldn't stand a chance. But love was measured in inhalers tucked into backpacks, in working 3 extra hours to buy crayons, in staying up all night on a plastic chair next to a cop who could have ruined him because she might help his daughter live in a better city. "You really think a black ex-con like you deserves to be her father?" Claire heard the unspoken question in his silence. "Yes," she said. "I do." For the first time since she met him, he looked like he almost believed her. The night it all came to a head started like any other. Rain tapping on the tin roof. Harbor City breathing in that slow, broken way it had, lights flickering across the water at Lenox Point. Marcus tightening lug nuts on a pickup while Lily watched a cartoon on an old tablet, headphones too big for her small head. Claire stepped out of the back room, moving carefully, the wound in her side still tender but healing. "You really should be lying down," Marcus said. "Can't," she replied. "Got something you need to see." She held up her phone. On the screen, a live GPS tracker blinked. "What am I looking at?" Marcus asked. "A truck," Claire said. "Registered to a shell company we know is tied to the ring. It just left one of Kane's condemned warehouses, heading right past your block. Tonight? Marcus asked. Right now, she said. If I'm right, it's loaded with kids. Or it's headed to pick them up. He cursed under his breath. You have backup? He asked. She shook her head. I have you. My partner's working internal affairs, prepping warrants. But they won't mean anything if we can't prove in real time that Kane is protecting them. Let me guess, Marcus said. You want to film it. Not just film it, she said. Live stream. Make it impossible to bury. If the whole city watches a captain threaten a black single dad for exposing a child trafficking ring, not even he can spin that. He stared at her. You understand what happens if this goes wrong, he said. If those cops roll up here and see you and me together on camera, they don't just arrest us. They spin it like I was in on it the whole time. They take Lily. I lose everything. Claire's voice softened. If we do nothing, you lose it anyway, she said. Not today, not tomorrow. But one of these nights, some officer decides you looked at him wrong, or that this block would be safer without you in it. And then Lily grows up with a file instead of a father. He swallowed. Lily tugged on his sleeve, pulling him back to the present. Daddy? She asked, eyes big. Why are you mad? He crouched to her level, placing his hands on her shoulders. I'm not mad at you, Star, he said. But I need you to be brave tonight. Can you do that? She nodded, jaw set. You remember Sister Maria? He asked. At the church down the block? The lady who gives me cookies, Lily said. That's the one, Marcus said. I'm going to take you there. You're going to stay with her for a little while, and no matter what you hear outside, you stay inside. You keep your backpack on. You keep your inhaler with you. You got it? Her lip trembled. Are you coming back? He pulled her into a tight hug, burying his face in her hair. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I do, he whispered. That's a promise. When he drew back, Claire was watching them, something raw and unguarded in her expression. I'll bring her myself, she said. They know me. It'll look like a regular welfare check if anyone's watching. For once, Marcus didn't argue. He let her take Lily's hand. The yellow backpack bounced against the little girl's back as they walked out into the rain. He watched until they turned the corner. Then he went to war. They didn't need a lookout this time. The city itself was watching. Marcus climbed to the roof of the building across from his garage, his phone in his pocket, a cheap pair of binoculars hanging around his neck. One of his old associates, Rico, huddled beside him, phone already recording. You owe me big for this, man, Rico muttered. I ain't trying to get shot for your cop girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend, Marcus said. Rico smirked. Yet. Down below, Claire stood in the mouth of the alley, phone held steady in her hand, the screen showing her own face, lit by the glow. Harbor City, she said quietly, voice carrying just enough. This is Detective Claire Adams, Child Protection and Trafficking Unit. If you're seeing this, it's because I believe my commanding officer, Captain Victor Kane, is about to interfere with an ongoing investigation into child trafficking in our city. I'm recording this for my safety, and for theirs. Headlights appeared at the far end of the block. A truck rolled into view, big and dark, windows tinted. Behind it, like a tail, 2 patrol cars. The truck slowed as it approached Marcus's garage. Here we go, Claire muttered. The patrol cars pulled up, flanking the alley. Doors opened. Officers stepped out, guns at their hips, hands resting just a little too casually on the grips. Victor Kane emerged last, raincoat flapping, silver hair gleaming under the streetlights. He moved with the confidence of a man who had never been told no and believed he never would be. Adams, he called. That you? Thought you were on medical leave. Claire didn't lower her phone. Funny thing about medical leave, she said. Doesn't apply when children are in danger. Kane's eyes flicked to the truck, then back to her. What exactly are you implying? He asked. Marcus's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, seeing the live stream feed spike. Hundreds of viewers, then thousands. Claire's voice stayed steady. I'm implying that this truck, which just left a warehouse you declared condemned, is part of an operation trafficking kids out of this city, she said, and that you've been signing off on shutting down every investigation that gets close to it. Kane laughed. Do you have any idea how this looks? He asked. A junior detective spouting conspiracy theories on the sidewalk, waving her phone around like a teenager. Turn that thing off before you embarrass yourself in this department any more than you already have. She didn't. Instead, she stepped aside. Marcus walked into view. He moved with that same slow, deliberate vibe he'd had the night his wife died, the night he'd nearly swung at a cop and lost everything. But this time, he wasn't alone. Rico and two other men from the block perched on the low wall, their cameras out, filming from different angles. Neighbors peered through curtains. Phones glowed in dark windows. Evening, Captain, Marcus said. You remember me? Kane's jaw tightened. I try not to clutter my memory with criminals, he said. You cluttered it with my wife's corpse, Marcus replied. Tasha Cole, overdose, hallway, no further questions asked. That ring a bell? Kane smiled thinly. I handle a lot of cases, he said. Hard to keep track. Luckily, we brought reminders, Claire cut in. She pulled up a file on her phone, holding the screen toward him. Your signature, she said. On her case, on half a dozen others in the same building, all marked unworthy of further investigation. Kane's gaze darted to the phone, then to the lens pointed at him, then back up to Marcus. Cole, he said, voice dropping low. You really want to do this on camera? A black ex-con, a known associate of gang members, standing next to a rogue detective accusing a decorated officer of corruption? You think anyone's going to buy that? Marcus stepped closer, rain running in rivulets down his face. I think they'll buy what they see, he said. A captain rolling up with a truck he doesn't want opened. A captain whose name keeps showing up when kids go missing. A captain who let my wife die and almost got this woman killed for trying to prove it. He pointed at Claire. And I think, he added, voice sharpening, they're tired of men like you deciding which lives matter. Kane's eyes went flat. Well, he said, if that's how you want to play it. He snapped his fingers. The officers around him stepped forward, hands on their weapons. Detective Claire Adams, you're under arrest for theft of department property, obstruction of justice, and colluding with a known felon, Kane announced loudly. Marcus Cole, you're under arrest for harboring a fugitive and interference with... Actually, another voice cut in, cool and crisp. They're not. A new set of lights flashed at the end of the block. A dark sedan pulled up. Out stepped a woman in a tailored coat, hair pulled back, ID hanging from a lanyard. Internal affairs, Rico murmured. Captain Elena Morales walked toward them like she owned the sidewalk. Kane, she said, we've been following your little field trip with great interest. Kane's face drained of color. What is this? He demanded. Morales, you don't have jurisdiction here. Actually, I do, she said. See, when one of my detectives sends me a secure link with months of evidence attached, files, recordings, phone logs, accusing a captain of protecting a child trafficking ring, I tend to take that pretty seriously. She nodded at Claire. Nice work, Adams, she said. You picked a hell of a way to force our hand, but you got us here. Claire let out a shaky breath. Kane spluttered. This is insane, he said. You're all going to regret... Open the truck, Morales said to the nearest officer. He hesitated, glancing at Kane. That's an order, she snapped. Hands shaking, the officer moved to the back of the truck, unbolted the doors, and swung them open. The cameras zoomed in. Inside, instead of kids, were crates, dozens of them. but every box was labeled with the same symbol, a company logo that had appeared in half of Claire's files, tied to shipments that always went missing from the system between the docks and the city limits. Morales glanced at Claire. "Your instincts were right," she said. "Even if they moved the kids earlier, this is enough to start." She turned back to Kane. "You're under arrest for obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy to facilitate human trafficking," she said. "You have the right to remain silent." Kane lunged, not for Morales, for Claire. He grabbed for her phone, fingers clawing. Marcus moved without thinking. In one fluid motion, he stepped between them, blocking Kane's swing with his forearm. The impact sent a shock of pain up his arm, but he didn't flinch. "You touch her again," Marcus said, voice quiet and lethal. "And I swear, on my daughter's life, I will drag your ass across this pavement myself." For a heartbeat, the whole block held its breath. Kane saw the cameras, the phones, the eyes. He froze. Then the other officers, some of them his, some of them Morales's, closed in, snapping cuffs around his wrists. As they led him toward the car, his glare burned into Marcus. "You think this changes anything?" he hissed. "You think they're gonna let a man like you walk after this?" Marcus smiled, tired and fierce. "We're gonna find out," he said, "with everyone watching." In the weeks that followed, Harbor City shook. News channels replayed the live stream on endless loop. Headlines screamed about corruption and trafficking, and a captain brought low by his own arrogance. Protests flared downtown. Parents demanded answers. Kids in neighborhoods like Lenox Point, kids who'd grown up learning to cross the street when they saw a squad car, watched clips of a black mechanic standing up to a captain and saw possibility. Claire spent hours in interviews, in hearings, in rooms with lawyers and cameras and microphones. She walked a tightrope between hero and scapegoat, and there were days she wasn't sure which one she'd fall into. Marcus spent hours in other rooms, social workers' offices, court buildings with bad air conditioning and worse coffee, answering the same questions over and over. Do you feel you endangered your child? Why did you associate with a corrupt officer? Do you regret becoming involved? Every time, he thought of Lily's backpack, of the inhaler inside, of the drawing taped to Claire's wall at the precinct now. 3 stick figures holding hands. Do you regret becoming involved? He looked them in the eye and said, no. In the end, the city did something it almost never did. It thanked him, officially. Captain Morales made sure of it. So did the community, loud and insistent. Marcus was granted immunity for his role in exposing the ring. A local nonprofit helped him get the proper permits for his garage. A lawyer took his case pro bono to make sure nobody could use his past to take Lily away. Claire was reinstated, then promoted. She took over as head of the Child Protection and Trafficking Unit with a tiny, battered office and a slightly better coffee machine. She kept Marcus's number in her phone. She used it more than she'd expected. Spring came late to Harbor City that year. One evening, months after Kane's sentencing, the rain finally eased. The air smelled like wet asphalt and something green trying to break through concrete. Marcus stood outside the garage, locking up for the night, when small footsteps pattered behind him. "Daddy," Lily said, panting. "You forgot this." She held out his keys in one hand. The yellow backpack hung from her shoulders, a little more worn, the metal star still scratched, but now joined by the glittery sticker Claire had given her, half peeling at the edges. "Thanks, Star," he said, taking the keys. She rocked on her heels, chewing her lip. "Is she coming?" she asked. "Who?" He played dumb, though his heart had been doing this stupid, hopeful thing every evening around this time for weeks. "Detective Claire," Lily said. "You said she might come for dinner." As if on cue, a car door closed at the end of the block. Claire walked towards them, out of uniform for once, wearing jeans and a simple jacket. Without the badge, she looked almost like anyone else on the street. Almost. Lily squealed and ran to meet her. "Careful," Claire laughed, catching the little girl as she launched herself at her legs. "I'm still healing, remember?" "You said that weeks ago," Lily said. "Are you done healing yet?" Claire glanced up at Marcus, a wry smile tugging at her mouth. "Getting there," she said. "Slowly." A breeze rustled the paper taped inside the shop window. Another drawing from Lily. This time, the stick figures looked a little more detailed. The house had a garage. The tall, dark figure had a cap that said Dad. The tall, light figure had a badge. The tiny one had a bright square on her back and a star above her head. "You're late," Marcus said, pretending to check an invisible watch. "I had a thing," Claire said. "A thing like saving more kids?" Lily asked. "A thing like paperwork," Claire groaned. "Endless, soul-crushing paperwork." Marcus chuckled. "Welcome to small business ownership," he said. "Soul-crushing paperwork is kind of our thing." They stood there for a moment, the three of them in the soft evening light. Marcus cleared his throat. "So," he said, suddenly awkward, "Lily's been asking if, you maybe wanted to stay. Not just for tonight. For dinner. For more dinners. Sometimes. If you wanted." He felt ridiculous, 30-something, tough guy, stumbling over an invitation like a teenager. Claire's eyes softened. "Is that Lily asking?" she said. "Or you?" He met her gaze head-on. "Both," he said. The fear in his chest didn't go away. The fear that someone would show up one day with a new reason he wasn't good enough. That some invisible scale would tip the wrong way and he'd lose his whole world. But standing there with his daughter between them and the yellow backpack bumping against his leg, he also felt something else. Hope. "You really think a black ex-con like you deserves to be her father?" He heard the question again. This time, he had an answer. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I do." Claire must have seen something change in his face. "Then I'd be honored," she said. "To stay. For dinner. For more dinners. For we'll see." Lily clapped, delighted. "I drew a picture of us," she announced, dragging Claire toward the door. "We're a team. Daddy fixes cars. You fix kids. I fix the stars." Claire glanced back at Marcus over her shoulder, laughing. "Sounds like she's already decided how this story goes," she said. He shrugged, feeling that unfamiliar warmth spread in his chest. "Kid's got good instincts," he said. Inside the garage, the lights glowed warm against the growing dusk. The city outside still had sirens, still had shadows, still had men like Kane hiding in corners, waiting for their chance. But in this little pocket of Harbor City, on this one block of Lenox Point, a black single father held his daughter's hand, opened his door to a woman who'd almost died trying to save them, and stepped into a future that, for the first time in a long time, didn't look like a dead end. Later that night, after dinner dishes were stacked in the sink and Lily had fallen asleep between them on the battered couch, her backpack at her feet, Claire traced the outline of the metal star keychain with one finger. "Funny," she whispered. "All the things I've seen in this city, I never thought a beat-up little backpack would be the thing that kept us all together." Marcus looked at his daughter, peaceful for once. "At first it was just something to hold her stuff," he said. "And now?" Claire asked. He smiled. "Now it's proof," he said, "that she's got a home, that she's got people who'd go to war for her. That, maybe, her dad's doing okay." The rain started again, a soft patter on the roof. But inside it was warm. If this story brushed against something in you, some memory of a father who stayed, or of a kid who needed someone to fight for them, know this. People like Marcus and Lily and Claire are out there in 1,000 different cities, trying, failing, trying again. And sometimes, when enough eyes stay open and enough hearts refuse to look away, the ending changes, even in a place like Harbor City.